and soul. You know, I was listening to these two folks at the first service, and they got the same kind of response. And that was Karaoke Sue and the angel Lucretia, okay? And I was thinking about this idea of harvesting imagination. I just want to give you this as an example. About 8 years ago, 5 or 6 of us sat together after we'd come up with a strategic plan, part of which was to improve or to grow our music program, is a better way to say it. And we sat together and we said, what do we want our music program to look like? Well, at that time, basically, it was a piano player who was outstanding, and we had a soloist come in from the community once a week to sing. And it was quite lovely and nice and wonderful, but it wasn't all that we wanted. And so what we started doing was envisioning a choir. We envisioned the people in our congregation coming forward to do the solo work, to do the duets, to do the trios, to do the quartets, okay? All those kind of things. And we sat and just looked at it. We didn't worry about how it was going to happen. We just knew it was going to happen. And 8 years later, we have a choir, the Inspiration Choir. We have Heart and Soul. We have Love and Harmony. We have people, we have Josh who played this morning, okay? We have talent galore here, and we are so blessed to see it expressing itself, manifesting itself, because of the imagination of our folks. So thank you guys. Thank you so much, okay? And thank the music team. I really look forward to this morning. I know it's been a week of confusion for some, a week of gnawing teeth for some, a week of disappointment for some, and yet there are another group of people where they are rejoicing, where they're saying yes, where they believe that what they stood for was the right and perfect thing for America. And as I looked at this thing and thought about this thing, I said, you know, there's never been a more important time than to talk about the harvesting of our imagination, the power of imagination. It's when we are able to turn to this power of imagination that the power of the I am, the Christ within, resides in every one of us. And as we recognize that, we can allow ourselves to take a look in the mirror, if you would, and to see how we are responding, how we are acting, how we are manifesting what happened in the past week in our own lives and in the lives of others. It gives us a chance to be introspective, a chance to, I think, to grow. A chance to really ourselves and allow that observer, if you will, to awaken ourselves and be willing to take an honest look at where we are as it relates to being in the world or of the world. We are all in the world because we're in the human condition, but we have a choice as to whether or not we want to be of the world. And being of the world means that I allow my imagination to be captured by others. I allow my imagination to be kidnapped by others. I allow myself to give up my power of imagination and let others control it. Let me give you a few examples of that. That even though the power of imagination is constantly operating in our lives, it always at work, just like faith is. It is a power that is within us. We are created with the power of imagination, each and every one of us. And yet, at the same time, we have that ability to allow others to keep us in bondage by giving up our power of imagination and allowing the imagination of others outside of ourselves to take over. You see, if we're not careful, we can become the victim. Neville Goddard, who was a New Thought writer and who passed away in 1972 from Barbados, lived in L.A. Many of his years, was quite proficient about describing the power of the I am, describing imagination. He said, I would suggest that today we should look in the mirror and awaken to who or what is the master of my imagination. If you believe you know who you are and how the imagination operates, you will learn to control your imaging ability. If you do not, you will be controlled by another and you will become their victim. I don't even like the word victim, but it does exist through the ego. And so these are some of the questions I would ask you. Are you a victim, and to what degree, when we look in the mirror? of marketing and advertising. You know, today, and not in the 60s when I heard this statement, in the 60s we had television and ads were coming on, and there was a fellow who was a lay leader, I've forgotten his name, Episcopal lay leader, who gave a talk, and one of the things he talked about is, in essence, giving up our imagination. He didn't say it that way, but that's what he was talking about. And he said, through advertisers, we give up our imagination. They are smarter than we are, okay? They go into the desires of what we think we want and grab us, if you would, and grab our attention. He said, if you think that the toothpaste ads you see are all about having whiter teeth, then you better realize that it's all about seeing yourself as you wish you were and understanding that there is this sexual annotation in all ads. And how true that is as we look at that, you know. So today we have even more. We have Facebook, we have Internet, and we have all the ads found in printed material, and they are there and want to be there to control our desires. They want to be our imagination. And yet, we have the power to not allow that to happen. And to imagine what we desire, some of which will be those products, but what we desire and what we need in our lives. And then we can become a victim to the media. Boy, have you ever seen that in the last few weeks? Last few months? Last year and a half? Okay? You know, this is the first time I've ever wanted to look at advertisements less than listen to the show. Right? I mean, I look forward to the advertisements. Some of them were kind of cute, thank God. But I was so engrossed in what was happening and the election results, and that's what we watched for a day and a half, that I found myself watching this. And if I wasn't careful, what would happen is that I would become a victim to, if I could use that word, I would become in bondage to those people who are giving out and trying to shape our attitudes, our biases, our perceptions, and our world. During the last week, as I looked at TV, I said, and watching these results, I said, you know, I don't want to be a victim of that. That is not what I need to listen to. I need to listen to Spirit within. I need to go within and do that. That's a responsibility I have as a creative vision of what God is, of manifesting God, if you would. Mary Manning Marcy, in one of her tapes, said that CNN stands for Collective Negative Nonsense. Fox stands for Fearful Obsessions Expanded. MNBC for Negative Brainy Conclusions. Okay? Now, I'm not making fun of those, and they have their rights to their opinions, but it's their opinions. And what counts to me is what my opinions are as I search them through Spirit and through God, as I look at the I am without. And then there's another thing that many of us have been treated to through the years, and that we can, if we're not careful, become a victim to dogma, a victim to religion. And I say that about unity. We can become a victim to unity concepts and think they're the only truth, and we got the truth if we're not careful. We're just seeking the truth. That's all we're doing. And we're growing in that truth as we do so. But we don't have it all. And we find ourselves sometimes dropping backwards, we think, even though I don't believe that exists, because we need to learn that there is not a God out there. Okay? There is only God everywhere present, within and without, because I can see you, and you are God's Spirit, and I know that you are God's Spirit. And since I know that you are God's Spirit, I know that God is everywhere present. Okay? So we are together. And as I do that, I also know that the teaching that Jesus is the only Son of God, in my thought process, is an illusion. That Jesus is one of the sons of God, as we are sons and daughters of God. That's what Jesus was saying to us. That's what Jesus was teaching. Instead, we get wrapped up in worshiping the man rather than the message, and listening to the message and allowing it to take place in our lives. So, as I look at that, I start to understand that words like sin and hell and damnation are not words that I can identify with any longer. In El Paso, I had a fellow come up to me after he'd been coming to this church for maybe a couple months, and he'd taken a class, and he said, "Richard, I'm quitting." And I said, "Okay, tell me about it." "Well, you don't believe in the devil." I said, "That's absolutely correct." I don't believe in the power of the devil. I don't believe there is a devil. You're right. You got that. He said, well, I think there is one, and I can't give it up. And so we talked a while about it, and he gave all the reasons that people have given me before of why there's a devil, because there are evil things happening in the world. There are bad things happening to people, and that's true. There is. But does that mean that that's the power that's in control? No, that's all temporary. God is in control. God is source. God is the way in which we work and act and become who we are and what we are. So as I looked at this word imagination, I thought I would just break it down as an acronym and share some thoughts with you. The first letter, 2 letters, are I am. Isn't that an interesting one? I am. The key to imagination is to believe and understand the power of 2 words. I am, A-M, and God is in you, as you, working through you. That's the I am power. The power of imagination is the power of the I am. You know, sometimes we can use words like I will, or I hope, or I expect, or I desire, or I think. And none of those will ever bring into being what your imagination has the power to bring into being, the I am power within you. When you say I am, you are resolute, you are strong, you are standing in strength, and you are saying what you believe is coming into being. That is powerful, and it will work for you, I guarantee you. The next letter is A, which is affirm. Affirm what kind of world you want. Affirm how you want to live. And then allow your affirmations to bring forth, if you would, all the resources that will provide the how of demonstrating the power of imagination. One of the wonderful things about the power of imagination, you don't have to worry about the how. All you have to do is worry about the end result. You don't even worry about it. Think about it and focus on the end result. The end result. You know, if you owned a GPS system, and most of us do, how many people have a GPS system of some type? How many have used them? Yeah, okay. Could have asked that question 15 years ago and you said, huh? But anyway, this GPS system. Well, you know, the imagination is kind of like that. As we observe where we are right now, how we are perceiving the world, how we are letting the world influence us, and if we want to make a change in that, we use that power of imagination to do so. The power of imagination, the consciousness says, I know where I am. The power of imagination says, here's where I want to be. And it looks at the end result. When you put in your GPS where you're located, if you don't put an address of where you want to be, it won't do anything. It'll just sit there, and so will you. And so when we put that idea of where I want to be in, then it tells me, Spirit tells me, how to get there. You know, I put an address in when I was down in the Keys. I had no idea where I was going, except I knew the end result. It was Mallory Square. I didn't know whether I was going to turn left. Well, I knew I was going to turn left because it only goes, you know, that's south, okay? I knew I was going to turn left. But after that, I didn't know what street I was going to turn on. So if Vicki said, well, what's the next street we turn on? I said, I don't know. Well, what's the next street? I don't know. Well, how are you going to get there? I don't know. But she says, that was the lady in my car, says that if I just listen, I'll get there. Well, we have to listen to the power of imagination to get where we want to be. Right? And it will guide and direct us. I will guarantee you that. The G, you know what that stands for, but maybe not totally. God power. And that is creative power. There is but one presence and one power, and that is God, the good omnipotence. And that means that no person, think about that, no person, no thing is against me. No person, no thing, no situation controls my thinking. I accept where things are, and they just are. I am in the isness of the moment. Not the regret of the moment, not the fear of the moment. I am in the isness of the moment. And when I go there, I have the ability, I have the desire to come up with solutions which Spirit will bring to me. I have to trust that process. And especially today, we have to trust that process. And then the I stands for ideas. You know, you have about 65,000 to 100,000, depending on which psychiatrist or psychologist you talk to today, of thinking It's the same ideas going over and over again in your mind. And those people who really move forward change about 2 to 5% of those over a period of time. And those who stand still have the same ones over time and time and time again. And they capture you. They put you in bondage. They put you literally into slavery, if you would. And so therefore, to overcome that, what we have to do is use that God power. We have to use ideas. And ideas are the unlimited power of your mind to generate mind-boggling and mind-blowing ideas that will fuel your imagination to develop a dream in you that will provide purpose, happiness, and joy. It will happen. No matter what's going on. I don't care how many elections they have. I don't care how much I agree or disagree with the media. I don't care what I think. If I allow myself to focus on where I want to be, I will get there. I'll guarantee it to you. I've been doing it for years. I have proven it in my life. At one point I did it out of the spiritual realm. And it worked. But it didn't give me everything I really wanted. And when I went into the spiritual realm and started to understand that I am spirit, that I am God manifesting on this world, that I am created in the image and likeness of God, it was then that I started to understand the benefits of the power of my imagination. So our ideas are unlimited. Again, Neville Goddard said, with divine, creative, and exciting ideas, everything is at your disposal. I mean, everything is in your imagination, and you are its creative power. The Bible says, eye has not seen, ear has not heard, and has not been entered into the heart of man the things already prepared by God to those who love him. How about that? There's still more. I don't care what you've done. There's still more. And every day more and more is revealed to you of who you are and what you are, and how you can respond and how you can live your life. The N is for name. I am that I am. Moses encountered a burning bush in the Hebrew Bible. And standing in front of that bush, when he said, had this conversation with the bush, and I got to admit, I was worried about Moses about that time. And he said, well, what do I say when I go before Pharaoh? Who do I tell the people of Egypt I've come to who's come? Who am I? And interesting enough, God said, I am that I am. The name of God is I am. Isn't that interesting? I am. That's who you are. That's what you are. You are the I am power in action, right here, right now. And so I affirm for you that power lets the imagination soar away from its past concepts of limitation and allows the mind to be flooded with a whole flood of expanded ideas. That's what Charles Fillmore said, co-founder of Unity. The next word is action, A. A is action. You see, our focused imagination allows us to respond rather than react. I will ask you today, are you responding to last week, or are you reacting to last week? Are you in control of what you're thinking, your emotions, and the ideas of what you believe is possible, or are you letting somebody else be in control of that? If you are reacting, then you're allowing that human part of yourself to be in charge, and it's okay, because you can change it. You can learn from it. You can grow from it. And you can see things differently, and they will come into being. Then we have the T. I had to think about that one a little bit. And that is treatment. Now, in many New Thought organizations, treatment is prayer. In Unity, we don't use that word very often, but it's prayer. And think about it. We are treating our minds. We are treating ourselves and focusing our minds so that we become the end, if you would, the fulfilled desire in our heart of what imagination brings forth for us. And so, again, when you know what you want, assume you have it. Deville. Look at your dream and see your fulfilled desire. Look, feel, and experience the end of what you want to imagine. Go back to your GPS system and say, where did I want to go? Now I'll imagine what it's like when I get there. And when we got to Key West, downtown Mallory Square, I got to tell you, it was different than anything I expected. It was fantastic. It was energizing. I thought a few old folks would be sitting around in this square. Well, that was Vicki and myself. Everybody else was young, okay? And they felt really good because I couldn't find anybody without a beer in their hand, hardly, okay? That was 10 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so by noon we joined them. But anyway, believe in what you want. Feel what you want. Write down what you want. Let me give you an example. Vicki and I, when we lived in El Paso, started to look for another house after we'd been there for about 2 or 3 years. And I went to a seminar, and that was on my mind. And this fellow said, I want you to write down or draw that which you want in your life. So I drew a house. It had a pretty steep roof. Then it came down the side. As you looked at the house, it had a balcony, and behind it, all glass. Now, this is El Paso. They don't build houses like that, we didn't think. But anyway, and then below it was another deck, all glass. And then there were these steep stairs going up because it was on the side of a cliff. They call it a mountain there, but it's a cliff, really. And it's on the side of this cliff. And then I sketched out the floor plan because he asked us to do that. And in the floor plan, I put a double garage with the road coming directly into the garage so you didn't have to go up any steps. And I forgot about it. I wrote it down, so this is great. I didn't even tell Vicki about it. On July the 4th of that same year, and this was sometime in the early part of the year, July the 4th, I saw an ad in the paper. And it described this house that just sounded fantastic. And so what happened was that Vicki and I went to see the house. Gosh, it had a pointed roof. It had steps going up. It was sitting on a cliff. It had 2 balconies. It had glass. We had driven by that house 20 times and never seen it. And all of a sudden, I knew that that was our house. We went in and talked to the owner, and she had other ideas about that, but that was okay, because she didn't want anybody to mess her house up with dogs, and we have dogs, and that kind of thing. And so anyway, what happened was we left and said, well, that won't happen. And I got a call from her and said, why don't you put an application in? We said, okay, fine, we'll put an application, because we had to rent it to buy. And then the next thing that happened was she told us all the people who she really wanted to have the house, not including us. And I actually said to her, look, I don't mind filling out the application, but I don't know why I'm doing this. And she said, well, I just like to look at everything. I said, okay. Another month went by. Got a phone call. The house is yours. Okay? That's the power of imagination. We were focused on finding the right and perfect home. I happened to have drawn what it was I wanted. I said later, the only thing wrong with this house is it doesn't have a swimming pool. One of my friends in Unity said, did you draw a swimming pool? No. So anyway, we can have what we want. And we can, in essence, do it through treatment or through prayer. And then the next I is for intention. I love what Michael Beckwith says. He says, pay attention to your intention. All it says is focus on what you want. Think about what you want. Draw out what you want. Journal about what you want. But make sure it's the end of what you want, not the middle, not the how, not the journey, but what do you want? And as you do that, what will happen again is Spirit will take control of the how and bring to you all the resources you need to make your dream come through. Then the O is kind of simple, okay? It's for omniscience, for omnipotence, and omnipresence. What does that say? In every situation, God is my source. God is my source, not the world, not the commentators, not the electorate, not Congress, not the president, not my source. God is my source. And when I believe in that, I will find the good in all those other things. I believe that with all my heart. And then there's the N, which is new birth. A new life comes when we change our mind, because it changes our life. When we focus on it. Not when I say I will, as I said, not when I say I think, when I say I'd like for it to happen. That's not convincing the universe of anything. It just keeps in sync what you're already, a core value you might be thinking about. So we want to move that core value. We want to change that core value. When we do, we change our lives. When you let Spirit be the source, the cause, and the guide, you will experience a new way of thinking, a new way of being, and a new way of living. Einstein said, max the reality that you want and it will be yours. Jesus said, ask believing and you will receive. Joseph, in the story of Joseph, said to his brothers when they found out that he was their brother they had sold off into slavery, fear not. Hear that? They were his enemies, supposedly. Fear not, for you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. I want to say to you this morning, fear not. Don't let your concerns, don't let your fear, don't let what you think might happen control what can happen. You control that. You control your world. Put away childish things. Put away those things which drag you down and help you live in fear. Instead, take on the mantle of hope and faith and love. Because that's what you are. That's what you have learned. That's who you can be. Now, all of us have our moments. But ask ourselves, is this just a moment? Is this just the illusion of fear? Is my ego in charge, or is the I am in charge? I want you to say this with me. I will say it and then repeat it. There is only one presence and only one power, God the good omnipotence. There is only one presence and one power, God the good omnipotence. I am secure in God.
I am secure in God.
So in our Christ consciousness, we can manifest our imagination and be in the world, but not of the world. So it is. Thank you.